40 years in the making. Two top five teams are defeated by their unranked conference foes. It was a bloodbath for the top 25 this weekend, so let's get to week seven's top 25. Starting with the 25 through 12. First, I'm going to discuss who fell out of my top 25. The first one is Michigan. They lost to Washington 27 to 17. I said last week I was worried about this team. AP coaches poll moved them up. AP had them at number 10. I did not have them that high. I had them at 15th. They have to find a quarterback or some kind of passing game. You can't keep running the ball and expect to beat good to decent teams. Washington is a decent team, but not a very good team. Find a quarterback, make a decision. Orgy cannot pass the ball right now. Maybe he needs some more time. Spend it, let Tuttle. He came in, looked a little better. They've got to find some offense through the passing game. The next team that got knocked out of my top 25, they were at ranked 16th. That is the Louisville Cardinals. They fought hard against SMU, but with that being a unranked team, they struggled against Notre Dame the week before, so I had them falling out with losing their last two games. The next team to fall out was USC. They were 18th. They lost to Minnesota 24-17. Is Lincoln Riley going to go back to the Pac-2 and beg to get back in? I don't know, but he's not faring well against the Big Ten. That's two losses now. Michigan, who has zero offense. Minnesota, that is a average team to me. They had to come back to beat Wisconsin 2 weeks ago. I keep talking about you can't trust Lincoln Riley. Well, you're actually seeing it, and it doesn't get better for them. They have to play Penn State this week, which they could end up going 1-3 in the beginning of their Big Ten start. Not looking good for Lincoln Riley and USC. More of the bloodbath. Let's look at the next team, and they didn't even play. So Utah was 23rd for me last week. I thought there's more teams playing that are undefeated that I think should move in the top 25. Utah last week got beat by Arizona 23-10. They looked very badly. Now Arizona got beat again this past weekend. That schedule is just not holding up for me. They did not look good, so I have them falling out. James Madison, they were 24th for me last week. They lost to UNL Monroe 19-21. That hurts a little bit because of their schedule. They had, played so well against North Carolina, but they fall out. So that leaves us to our first team in the top 25, and this is a new team for me, and that's the Pittsburgh Panthers. They beat North Carolina 34-24 to stay undefeated, but they have Cal coming this week. Cal's actually flying across country after that tough loss against Miami. And let's see if Pittsburgh can stay undefeated. I actually think Cal's going to go out there and win this ball game, especially after being so close last week. Expect Pittsburgh to get beat. At number 24, we're looking at our Black Knights of Army. They beat Tulsa 49-7. This defense has only given up 49 total points this year. I know the competition hasn't been that good, but I love putting in our military academies in the top 25, and I think it's deserving so. They're one of the few remaining undefeated teams in the country. Going to rank 23, we have Indiana moving into my top 25. They beat Northwestern 41-24. The the University of Ohio transfer Curtis Rourke is paying huge dividends for Indiana right now. He's playing very, very well, and that's why I have them moving up to 23. Moving back in my top 25, I have the Midshipmen of Navy. After they beat the other academy, Air Force, 34-7. Look, this team is learning how to throw the ball, and it is making a big difference, I think. and they're playing good defense. It's so awesome to have both military academies in the top 25. Both teams will play Notre Dame this year. That will be their only ranked game unless either one of them can get in the top 25 at the end of the season when they play each other. And one of them, they have a really good shot of going undefeated. I think one of them's going to be able to knock Notre Dame off. We'll find out in a few weeks. I think they both play Notre Dame within the next 2 to 4 weeks. Moving up to 21, the 21st rank is Kansas State. They actually had a bye week this week. I moved them up because they had such a good game the week before. They just moved up one spot. Another team that's moving up one spot is Nebraska. They beat Rutgers 14-7. It was a tough game against an undefeated Rutgers, but they play Indiana this week. So that is one of the many top 25 matchups this week. So we'll see if Indiana's able to stay undefeated or if Nebraska can pull off another tough win. At 19, what is going on with Missouri? Gracious, they got annihilated by Texas A&M 7-41. They had struggled the week before against Vandy, and we all know what happened this weekend, so you can kind of count that out. But the Aggies came in and just absolutely laid a hammer on them. I mean, it was from the beginning. They had already went up 34-0 before Missouri scored with 5 minutes left in the third quarter. Down 34-0. We saw the week before where Georgia was down pretty badly in the first half, but they came back and made it a game. Missouri was unable to bounce back and make anything of this game. And I'm sorry. I said 41-7. It was actually 41-10 was the final score. At number 18, I have Oklahoma. They were bye this week, but they do play Texas. The Red River Shootout is this weekend. Showdown, not shootout. Number 17, Illinois. They also were on a bye. They got to move up. Going up to 16, I have Texas A&M after their huge defeat of, I had Missouri at 8 when they got beat this week. That 41-10. I wonder if Marshawn Lynch knows who Mike Elko is now. And if you don't, you should. He was the old Duke coach who is now at Texas A&M after they let Jimbo Fisher go last year. That team is looking pretty good. I didn't think Missouri, they kind of showed that against Vandy a little bit. But their coach Drinkwitz is very good as well. Missouri will bounce back. I do not expect them to get beat like that again. Moving 10 spots up for me, at number 15 is Boise State. They defeated Utah State 62-30, and Genty just keeps on running. Just run. I mean, the entire team looks good. I just think he should get recognition. I actually am seeing more college shows talk about him at the moment. At 14, we have LSU. They have a bye. And they will be playing Ole Miss this week. God, we have so many games coming up this weekend. Should be a lot of fun. At 13, I have the Clemson Tigers. They beat poor Florida State 29-13. They continue to find their stride. If I was Miami, I would be very worried about this team. After the defeat to Georgia, Dabo has got this team playing very well, and a lot of it has to do with Klubnik, their quarterback. And then the last team in this portion, your number 12 ranked team, Ole Miss Rebels. They went to South Carolina and beat the Gamecocks 27-3 this weekend. A good bounce back after losing the week before to Kentucky. And like I said earlier, they will be playing number 14th LSU this weekend. Okay, so let's move into our top 11 that impacts the playoff for this year. And coming in at number 11, Oh, yeah. Didn't see this one coming. Alabama is falling all the way back to number 11 for me. They were my number one team last week after beating Georgia. They got beat by Vanderbilt 35-40. Their player of the game was Jahad Campbell. He had 12 tackles with 1.5 for 1.5 tackles for loss, I should say. Their next 3 games, they have South Carolina, then they'll go to number 10 Tennessee, which kind of gives you what I'm what I'm about to do next. And then in 3 weeks they'll go play Missouri, or Missouri will come to them. Sorry. Bama had 0 sacks. They were negative on turnovers. They had 2 turnovers, one of them being a huge turnover. That interception towards the beginning of the game, and then they had the miss PAT, but that gave Vanderbilt a 13-0 lead. You know how momentum is in college. That kept Vanderbilt rolling in that first half. They also allowed 12 of the 18 third down conversions for Vandy. They just looked like a complete different team. Most of the game, they kind of looked like they did in the second half against Georgia. Now, Milroe was still able to find the young wide receiver that everybody's talking about. I'm not going to say it because I'm getting tired of hearing about it. But, oh man, the other thing you need to look out for on this team, towards the end of the game, there is a player, his number is 13. The quarterback had just got another first down towards the end of the game that pretty much sealed it up. Well, he pushed the kid's head to the ground. No penalty. Then while he's waiting for the next play, he takes his mouthpiece out, throws it, and then he goes kicks the ball where it was landed. They fouled him, and then Bama refuses to try to get him off the field. That is a Saban difference right there. There is no way in the world that number 13 would have done that with Saban as the coach. I gave DeBoer so much props last week, but man, he was losing that team at the end of the second half. You can tell the discipline has changed a little bit since the GOAT has left, and it's only been 4 or 5 games. So let's continue to see if Alabama, they have so much talent, they're going to be okay, and I still think they have a great shot at making the playoff. But this was such a huge upset for Vanderbilt. I'm going to put this link in. Please go watch the SEC shorts. They do these fantastic videos all about the SEC, and this one was just golden. They've been doing this for a long time, and all of their popular skits, they kind of put them all into one. This was an incredible video. I will put the link. Please go watch it. It's funny, and it gives you chill bumps for all of what Vanderbilt's been through all their years. And when I started the video off, 40 years in the making, they had not beat Alabama since 1984. That's what I was referring to. But I left Bama in my top 11 just so I could talk about them a little bit. Getting beat by an unranked team like that, especially for one that's been a whooping stick for a lot of teams in the SEC. And they even played Saban's video with Pat McAfee about Saban saying the only easy place to win in the SEC is Vanderbilt. Well, he left, and that is no longer the case. Moving up to the 10th ranked team in the nation for me is actually a team that fell down. It was the Tennessee Volunteers. They were ranked 4th for me right now. Their AP rank from yesterday is 8. They lost to Arkansas 14-19. Their player of the game is Keenan Peely. He's their linebacker. He had 14 tackles. Defense played great. It was really Nico. Nico just didn't do enough. A lot of his passes were checkdowns. Arkansas secondary did a great job. The other thing is their defensive line and the pressure that they kept putting on Nico was the biggest key, really. They had 4 sacks. They had a lot more hits. They were constantly putting pressure on him, and the young quarterback was struggling to adapt to that. I think this was a great game for him. He's going to definitely learn from this and move forward. And with that defense, Tennessee's going to be around as well. I think their defense is so much better than Alabama's. So I think they have a better shot at making the playoff, even though I had them falling to number 10. Even though they didn't play, I have Notre Dame moving up one spot to number 9. I thought Tennessee and Alabama should fall a little further just because losing to unranked teams. They were number 10. Right now, AP has them at number 12. It was a bye week for them. Their next 3 games, they'll have Stanford, which is a decent ACC team now. And then they'll have Georgia Tech, who continues to win. And then they'll have that undefeated Navy. And I think Navy will still be undefeated by the time they get to Notre Dame. But they still have 2 good teams that they have to beat before they get to that Navy game. Moving one spot up is my Dogs, coming from my ranked 9th. They are AP 5th. I'm going to just move them up to that 8th spot. They defeated Auburn 31-13. The player of the game was Trevor Etienne at 88 yards with 2 touchdowns. He also had 6 receptions for 36 yards. Their next 3 games, they have Mississippi State, which should be an easy win. And then the big game, they go out to Austin and they'll play Texas. And then after that, they'll have the cocktail party against Florida. And I know a lot of people are going to say, oh, the homer is putting Georgia ahead of Alabama when they beat them straight up. Yeah, Alabama was a top 5 team. They didn't lose to an unranked team. That's why I have Alabama falling so far back. Georgia's only loss is a top 5 team. Alabama's is not. And yes, this is my top 25, and I can do as I please. And I am going to homer up just a little bit and put them in front of Alabama. I still think both of them are really good teams, and there's so much left in the SEC to determine. And I want to be honest with you, is outside of Texas, is this the most shakiest top 10 you've ever seen? I'll discuss that more after I finish up, but the top 10, man, any given Saturday at this point. But that's where I have my Dogs. We'll continue on. Moving up 5 spots for me, they didn't play. And mostly this is because a lot of teams got beat or were struggling. But I do have the BYU Cougars going from 12 to 7. They are undefeated. All these other teams in front of them have losses. They've all been beat at least once. So I think that a team that's undefeated should move up. They're 14th in the AP right now. They had a bye game, like I said. Bye game. They had a bye week. They did not play this week. Their next 3 games, they have Arizona, who was once ranked for me. Then they have Oklahoma State, who was once ranked for me. And then they have UCF, who just got beat by Florida this past weekend. Don't count out Arizona and Oklahoma State, though. 2 capable teams of pulling off an upset, just like I said earlier. It's any given Saturday at this point. But I moved BYU up because they were undefeated and they had already started progressing before some of the undefeated teams like Indiana and so forth. And that's why I have them at number 7. Another team moving up 5 spots, I had them at ranked 11. The AP actually has them at 11. They defeated Baylor 43-21 this weekend. Their player of the game was Jalen Jackson, their running back. He had 107 yards with 2 touchdowns. Early in the second quarter, I thought they might be another casualty when they were down 14-3. Then they were still down 21-19 early in the third quarter. And then they got 3 straight touchdowns and field goals to end the game, and that's what brought the score to 43-21. But they definitely looked like they were going to be another top 25 team to get beat by an unranked team. Baylor has been playing all the other Big 12 teams very well, and Iowa State was able to find a way to bounce back and win this game. Their next three games, they will go to West Virginia, who had a good win this weekend. Then they go to UCF, and then they'll get a bye week before they play Texas Tech, who Texas Tech is 5-1 right now. So Iowa State and BYU do not play each other this year. At towards the end of the season, Iowa State will play Utah and Kansas State. That Kansas State could determine who goes to the conference championship. But right now, I have both of those Big 12 teams, Iowa State and BYU, back to back. They have been undefeated. They have been moving up. Iowa State, I have them one above BYU because they did beat Iowa when they were ranked. Iowa was 21 when they beat them 20-19. I don't necessarily think they're a top like 6 team being at 6. I'm not even sure if BYU is there yet either. And they start playing, I mean, Baylor was pretty much the better school that they've played. I would put Baylor above Iowa right now, even though Iowa gave them a better game. So let's see how well they fare in the next 3 weeks. But they don't play any ranked teams into their last two games at the end of the season, unless Texas Tech finds a way to creep up in the top 25. Like I said earlier, they're 5-1. I still believe that the Big 12 is wide open. Any team could come up through here. These are just the two teams that continually to find a way to win. I think, oh man, it's tough right now. I want to say BYU, but Kansas State, God, they have a good game, they have a bad game, they have a good game. Let's see how their season continues. I don't think Utah's going to be there. They need Cam Rising, and he cannot stay healthy. So the Big 12, to me, is wide open. I'm not sure Iowa State will be there at the end either. I have a little more faith in BYU at this moment. The only reason I had Iowa one step above, like I said, was that top 25 win. But for now, I think they're deserving of a top 10 ranking. At number 5, we have the Miami Hurricanes. They move up 2 spots from my 7. Currently, they're at AP 6. They defeated Cal 39-38. I want to be completely honest. I fell completely asleep. My wife even woke up and watched the end of the game. I was passed out. Luckily, I taped it. I went back and watched Miami have a great comeback to beat Cal 39-38. Their player of the game was Mark Fletcher Jr. He's a running back. He had 81 yards with a touchdown. Their next 3 games, they will have Louisville, which has fell out of my top 25. They also then play Florida State and then Duke. So there is a problem with Miami that I have right now. That game against Virginia Tech, God, did the refs make the right decision on that? That's one. They barely beat California, but you got to give them credit. I mean, they had to fly all the way across the country, play this game at 10:30 Eastern time, early in the morning. So you know the kids had to be tired, and they had to wait all day. Game day was there, so all the fans were pumped up for Cal. The team had to be pumped up because it's the first time game day was there. You know how momentum is. I keep talking about momentum. But let's get back to where the problem is with Miami right now. Louisville, not ranked. Next game, Florida State, not ranked. Duke, not ranked. After Duke, Georgia Tech, not ranked. Wake Forest, nope. Syracuse, nope. As of right now, they have not played a team in the top 25, nor do they have a team in the rest of their schedule that is ranked in the top 25. Georgia Tech, maybe Syracuse could creep up in the top 25 before they get to that matchup. And I still really like Cam Ward as a Heisman candidate, but that's why I said they got to be afraid of Clemson moving. They do not play them in the regular season. And I think Miami, unless they stumble against Louisville, Florida State's in disarray. I don't think Duke's that good. They could stumble against Georgia Tech. We all know the play last year where they tried to go for it and it didn't work out, and then Georgia Tech came back and won the game. It was a just take a kneel down, and you win that game. Anyway, and maybe Syracuse with McCord as quarterback. I don't know, but right now I almost dropped them below Iowa State and BYU just because they hadn't played anybody and they've barely won against decent teams. But I like Cam Ward. I like their running game, and we'll have to see if that defense can play a little better. Moving up to my number 4 spot is the Oregon Ducks. They were my number 6. They're number 3 in the AP right now. They defeated Michigan State 31-10. Their player of the game for me this week is Jordan Burch, their defensive end. He had 4 tackles with 2.5 sacks. Their next 3 games, they finally play somebody. They play Ohio State this week. Like I said, with many top 25 games this weekend. Then they'll go to Purdue, and then they'll play another ranked team, which is my current number 17, the Fighting Illini of Illinois. So you're about to hear a broken record on this, my point that I'm about to make. My next 3 teams, I'm going to give it away. They're all Big Ten teams. Not a single one of them have a top 25 win. They've all been playing. They had a long cupcake beginning, and then they just started into their conference games, and it's the teams at the lower of the conference. I mean, you still got to win those, but they haven't been winning those convincingly. So let's see how Oregon plays Ohio State. It goes for Ohio State too. They didn't look that great against Iowa, and you know how bad Iowa's offense is. But anyway, right now, Oregon is sitting at number 4. Moving up to my number 3 position, that is Penn State. They come from 5 on my ranking. They're 4th on the AP. They defeated UCLA 27-11. Their player of the game is Liam Clifford. He's a wide receiver. He had 3 catches for 107 yards. I take back what I just said. Penn State does have a top 25 win. They are one of the few top Big Ten teams to actually play a top 25 team. They did beat Illinois 2 weeks ago, 21-7. I had forgot about that until I was looking at my notes. Their next 3 games, they will go to Southern Cal to play the Trojans, and then they'll get a bye week, and then they'll play at Wisconsin, and then they'll have Ohio State at home. With that defense, I don't see them having a problem with USC nor Wisconsin. And then we'll actually see a good matchup with Ohio State. We'll learn a lot more about them against Oregon this weekend. But Penn State, that defense is stellar like it always is. It's really just going to come down to if Drew Aller can actually show up in a big game and win one for Penn State. We all know in the previous years they can't beat Michigan, they can't beat Ohio State. Well, they don't play Michigan this year, and they probably have a chance to beat them. But they do play Ohio State in 4 weeks, actually. And we'll get to see if Drew Aller can actually win one of those big games. Another team moving up 1 spot for me at number 2. I have the Ohio State Buckeyes. They were previously number 3. They are the AP number 2. They defeated Iowa 35-7. Their player of the game was Ty Hamilton, defensive tackle, 5 tackles, 1 sack, and 1 forced fumble. Their next 3 games, like I've already said, they play number 6 Oregon, then they get a bye week, then they go to number 20 Nebraska, and then they'll have to travel to Penn State. So their next 3 games, I was complaining that they hadn't played anybody, but their next 3 games they actually play three ranked opponents. They looked a little sluggish against Iowa this weekend. Iowa just, man, they suck. Their offense is so freaking bad. I thought they might try to turn a corner this year with McNamara, the quarterback that came from Michigan. He only threw for 98 yards. I guess you can credit Ohio State's defense for that. They had three turnovers on top of the interception. He had two fumbles that he lost. If Iowa could just, they're like Michigan this year. If they could find an offense, they would be really good considering how good their defense is. I just didn't think Ohio State looked that good, but they could have just been looking towards this Oregon game this weekend. I'm not sure, but we're going to find out finally what this team is about, and that's going to come this Saturday. Now, moving back to the number one team in the country for me, the Texas Longhorns. How about that? You don't play and you move back to number one. Pretty good deal for Texas after Alabama's huge upset to Vanderbilt. They are the AP number one. They were ranked 2 for me last week. They had a bye week. Their next 2 weeks are going to be pretty fun to watch. The showdown this weekend, I always look forward, even when both teams, or one team was good and one team wasn't, I always look forward to that game. It was always fun to watch. And then the week after that, they will play number 8 Georgia. So they have 2 huge games coming up. And looky there. Look who they have in that third week. That is Vanderbilt. So actually, their next 3 games are going to be interesting. Can Vandy pull up another big upset? Well, it depends on how well they fare against Oklahoma and Georgia. I think they're going to beat Oklahoma. I'm just not sure about Georgia right now. I think Texas is the better team. At this point right now, I would pick Texas over Georgia. And then Vandy, they could pot, and they got to go to Vanderbilt too. So there's the top 25. Let's go ahead and go to the bracket, how it looks going into week 7. We'll start at the top left-hand corner like we always do. I have Texas winning the SEC. They would have the number 1 seed. At number 8, you would have Georgia playing the 9 seed Notre Dame. Moving down, the 12 seed would be Boise State. They would play the 5 seed Penn State. And then I would have the 4th bye, the 4 seed going to the Big 12 winner, Iowa State. Even though last week I had Iowa State ahead of BYU, I had BYU winning the Big 12, and that's why I had them in that 4 slot. This week I have Iowa State. At the 3 seed, I have Miami for winning the ACC. And then Alabama would be at the 11th seed. They would play the 6th seed Oregon. Moving down, you would have Tennessee on the 10th seed playing the 7th seed BYU. And then it would finish off with the 2 seed winning the Big Ten, and that would be Ohio State. And that would be your bracket for week 7. Let's move on to my Heisman watch. I'm going to start moving down from 7 to 4. I put at number 7 Colin Ramos. He is the linebacker for Navy. He is 5th in the nation with 56 tackles. Going to Nick Nash. He is the wide receiver for San Jose State. San Jose State's 4-1. Anyway, he has scored a touchdown in every game. He leads the nation in TDs, and he's 2nd in the nation in yards behind Trey Harris of Ole Miss. Moving up to number 5, Sean Dolak. He is a linebacker for Buffalo. He actually leads the nation in tackles with 72. That's 14.4 tackles per game. Pretty incredible. He also has 3 sacks and 2 interceptions. That's why I have moved him in. I still have Will Smith at number 4. Nobody throws to his side. He still is in top of the nation in interceptions with 3. So that's why I still have Will Johnson in there. So falling from my number 1, he didn't play this week, but don't fret. He is still going to be one of my top guys unless something happens. I have Travis Hunter falling to number 3. just because he had a bye week. But I don't think he's going to stay there long. He's finally getting recognition, that's for sure. All three of the guys I've been talking about, I've been seeing more shows talk about all three of the candidates. I mean, Cam Ward's been there, but the other two guys haven't. I'm seeing them getting a lot more recognition at this point. Going on to my number two, I have Ashton Genty, the running back for Boise State, moving up. He had 186 yards and 3 touchdowns in the first half. He has 1,031 yards already after 5 games. There's only been 30 players to break 2,000 rushing yards in a season in the entirety of college football. He has a chance to do something very special. And if you get a chance, go look at the top 10 running backs to get over 2,000 yards, and you'll see how well they've done in the NFL. Shows you what kind of talent he is and how well he is playing. Moving up to my number one position would be Cam Ward. He has been carrying Miami on his back when they need him. He did it the week before. He did it against Cal. He is showing to be one of the best players in college, and I think that's what this is about. I know I've been saying you shouldn't take the quarterback from one of the best teams or the best team. Well, I think he's deserving, even though I will probably, once Hunter starts playing in, he's probably going to creep back up, and Ashton Genty's going to be there as well. But those are my three guys that I would have in New York: Travis Hunter, Ashton Genty, and Cam Ward. If you love college football, this was an incredible weekend. Even though it was a bloodbath for the top 25, that's what we've been looking for. Everybody gets tired of your Alabamas, even the Dogs, even Georgia, your Ohio State. I think the NIL in the portal has finally starting to close that gap, and we're starting to see more parity in college football. The NFL has been able to do that, and it is great watching NFL football. College football is getting there. That gap is closing. Look, Vanderbilt 10 years ago would not have done what they did this weekend without being able to go out and get players like they were able to go get Pavia. This is what we love. We love parity. We like all of our teams having a chance. And now with a 12-team playoff, I think it's going to continue to help bridge that gap. Plus, I'm hoping this will keep kids in playing. I mean, a lot of the bowl games you start to look forward to, and then half the kids are gone. Look at Florida State last year. I know they were disappointed, but they should have stayed with a school that gave them a chance to play football, and they should have played in that bowl game against Georgia. And now, this week, this is going to be another incredible weekend. We have, even though not every team is playing a ranked team, there's still some good matchups. For an SEC fan, Tennessee and Florida has always been a good game. That's this weekend, even though Florida, they're starting to look a little better. We'll see if Tennessee will bounce back. Alabama's got to play South Carolina. Then the Red River Showdown. You have number 1 Texas going against my number 18 Oklahoma. And then Penn State's going out to USC, even though USC is no longer ranked. Stanford and Notre Dame's playing. Cal, you saw how well they played Miami. They're going to Pittsburgh this weekend. Then you got Arizona and BYU. Can BYU stay undefeated? And then at nighttime, you got Ohio State and Oregon playing. And at the same time, they got Ole Miss and LSU. Daggum, I wish they'd put LSU and Ole Miss at noon. But at 7:30, you'll have Ohio State and Oregon in Ole Miss and LSU. There's one another game I want you to pay attention to, and that's for the Big 12. Kansas State goes to Colorado. Let's see how well Colorado fares against Kansas State. But that's a big matchup for the Big 12. There's another big matchup for the Big 12 because Iowa State's got to go play West Virginia. West Virginia's playing much better over at least the past 2 weekends. Great. We just had a great weekend, and we have another one coming. So, like I always say, thank you for listening. Find somebody to go watch those games with. I'm actually going on a golfing trip with my friends, and we're going to go and find a sports bar to watch some of these games after playing 2 rounds of golf on Saturday. Can't wait for that. Like I said again, thank you for listening. I love doing this. I wish I could do it more. Have a good weekend. Later.